Hi everyone, here are the details about LIT386, the dissertation module which you'll take in your third year if you so wish. I'm Sam Ladkin, I'm the module convener. I tend to work in contemporary British and American poetry and the relationship to the other arts. The good news for you is that you don't have to worry too much about me and what I do because I'm the convener, I'm organising the course, but each of you will be supervised by a particular faculty member who's a specialist in the subject you wish to research or write about. A few of you will be unlucky and I'll be your supervisor too, but that damage is for later. So the dissertation takes the place of a second semester approved module, so the spring semester in your third year. So for example, if you're a single honours student and you'll be taking modern lit, contemporary lit, and then the dissertation. So it's a piece of independent research that will replace, in a way, one of your optional modules. So what is it? It's an 8,000 to 10,000 word essay, essentially, a long, more substantial research essay. It's an independently researched essay based on the subject of your choice, which you develop and work on in supervisions with a member of the School of English faculty. Alternatively, there's a creative writing dissertation, which can be either in prose or in poetry, or even some new art form as yet to be discovered by your good selves. So, for example, if you were going to produce a piece of prose, it might be a 6,000 to 8,000 word portfolio of writings. That might be a single story, that might be several short stories, whatever it might be, and a critical commentary where you reflect on that work and describe some of the decisions and the research that's gone into producing that material. For poetry, the outline is for, say, 10 to 15 poems, but there's flexibility there depending on the dialogue you have with your supervisor, and again a critical commentary, just to try and have some sort of parity between all these options. So it might be the research essay, so not the creative writing essay, might be on any of these, in any of these fields, really. So it might be a piece about literature, it might be about poetry, it might be about history of the novel, it could be anything like that. You might write about film, or the relationship between film and literature. You might write an essay that's in the end predominantly kind of theoretical or philosophical in its implications, and that would be fine. It might have some element of theatre and performance in it, and that would be interesting thing to develop. People have written in the past about comics. You might do a close reading of a particular critic or literary critic. You might write about a particular feature of language or some other thematic organisation of your work. It's up to you in development with your supervisor. So what do you need? By the end of this, you need an interesting and challenging subject, something that you can really get your teeth into intellectually, your intellectual teeth, which are teeth in your brain. There you go. You need a strongly focused and developing argument, so you need something you want to say, something you want to argue, something you want to agree and disagree with, something you can think passionately about. Some dissertations will range across very different texts. They might be across different historical time periods, for example, or across genres. Others will be closer comparative pieces between, say, two 18th century novels with a close thematic link between the two. Some dissertations will be comparative, for example, between authors, or might be a single author study, writing about the novels of Jane Austen, for example. Some will compare periods, so you'll think about the fin de siècle and modernism, or you'll focus on a single periodization, think about romanticism and what the assumptions of the category of romanticism might be, and explore that a little more with a little more depth and intensity. Some will explore specific historical or cultural moments or identities, certain kinds of people in certain kinds of places, issues of class, for example, or race. Some will be driven by formal analysis, so you'll think about a particular genre or type of work, the elegy or narrative theory, just some examples I've given there. Some will be driven by a theory or a methodology, so you might be desperate to write your masterpiece of Lacanian psychoanalysis. And if that's you, good luck to you. And some, indeed many, if not most, will overlap between several of these areas. It's a question of how to research with some intensity and develop an interesting and exciting project for yourself and for us. We want to read something interesting that you've written. So what can you expect? In the autumn semester, there's an hour supervision one-to-one. In the spring semester, there's 3 hours of supervision one-to-one. So that's you and a member of the faculty here discussing your research kind of questions and problems and working out the scope of the project and what might be best for you to do. A little kind of problem there or caveat there is there is a kind of cut-off line at which your supervisors won't read more of your work, which is basically by the Easter break in semester 2. So you have to try and get a lot of words written before Easter break in semester 2. You'll also have some workshops. Those probably will be with me. I apologise in advance, but I hope they'll be helpful. One on research, one on the library and research resources, and one on writing, editing, and formatting your work in the end. And all of that material will be available to you after the fact on Mole too. So that's to try and help you explore your research possibilities a bit more there too. What we expect from you: a proposal of a couple of 100 words submitted by the 1st of May to me, and in that 200 words it's not an assessed piece of work, so don't panic about it. Just try and describe with some clarity something you're interested in, something you want to do, a research topic, an outline of some question you've got that's nagging away at you, whatever it might be. We expect there to be some movement and shifting around. You won't be held entirely to that proposal, but it's a proposal that will allow us, for example, to assign you with a supervisor. So do try and have a think about it in good time, so that you can be assigned essentially, the right supervisor, a supervisor who has research expertise in that particular field. So it's not an assessed piece of work. It's to let us know what you're interested in researching, and to allow us to assign you a particular faculty member. The kind of caveat here: don't worry too much about this. It doesn't happen very often, but we do kind of reserve the right to advise you against taking up the dissertation if we feel it would be a problem for you. Essentially, if for example we think you struggle with time management, if we feel that you might simply try and avoid the work it takes to do a dissertation throughout the second semester, and then have a huge kind of panic right at the end, and you won't show yourself in the best light, then we may advise you against doing the dissertation. But as I say, it's quite rare that we kind of insist on that. We do want you to do the dissertation module and not do similar kind of intensity work elsewhere. So perhaps if you're doing a dual degree, you're doing a dissertation with us but not in history, for example. So to just allow you to focus on one particular research topic without getting overwhelmed. We also, if there's something we really cannot supervise at all, then we might advise you on doing something closer to our areas of research expertise. But again, it's quite a rare situation where we sort of advise you against doing a particular kind of project. Then once you're on the dissertation module, as I say, it's very rare for us to not let anyone onto the course, but it is a possibility that's out there. And we expect a working plan from you in week 12 of the autumn semester. So you'll see your supervisor help develop a research question, a kind of project for you, and then we'll ask you for a little abstract of that project to show sort of where it stands now. And then essentially in week 11 of semester 2 in the spring, we expect to read an interesting dissertation that you've written. That's it. Assessment's graded on the same scale as coursework essays, the same marking schemes used. It'll be double marked, and there'll be an external examiner overseeing it, as is the case for all your work. The teaching format, as I say, is one-on-one supervisions, and most of the time it's you and some books and films and some research material doing the thinking. Just to give you a sort of pros and cons then, the pros are really that this is a chance for you to sort of spread your wings a little and to develop a more large-scale, in-depth research project, something you're passionate about. It's often the piece of work that people feel is the kind of the best thing they do whilst they're at university in their undergraduate degree, but you'll have to think about that for yourselves. It's an opportunity to develop an interest studied in little detail on your degree, so if there's something you wanted to return to but didn't have time to, now might be the time. It's a chance to develop your writing style, so a way for you to think about structuring an essay and becoming more elegant in your composition. It can be good preparation for the MA or a potential PhD if that's something you're interested in doing. And some people do really well. It becomes a hugely important piece of work for them. The cons, independent means that no one's going to be making sure you work consistently. You'll be supervised, but we're not going to be chasing you up, making sure you're doing your homework. This is up to you. If you put your head in the sand and don't do anything, it's going to be a problem. So you have to decide whether or not you're going to be able to essentially look after yourself through this process. Problems of essay structure are become more so at this kind of length, but we'll obviously work with you to try and help you through those issues, but it can be more difficult to structure a piece like this. It can be hard to manage the kinds of amounts of information that you're bringing in on this research, but again, it's something we'd like to work with you on, and hopefully it's something you find exciting, but it is a challenge. And it can be easy to get lost, or alternatively not to get sufficiently lost and remain a little too superficial in your essay. Try and think of a way of doing a quite refined research project, something fairly small in a way that you can really get into in detail and depth. This isn't very good if you struggle with deadlines, because essentially when all's said and done, it's one big deadline, and if you try and do it the night before, that's not going to work. So, you know, there's a warning, your grades can also go down, though obviously if you do some work that won't be the case. That's my contact information, and you're welcome to write to me and ask me any questions about this. I think that's all you need to know. It can be, as I say, a chance to research something that you'll want to think passionately about, and therefore it can be the best thing you do on your degree. It's the thing you feel most autonomously that is your work during this whole process. So it can be a wonderful thing to do. It's really up to you. Okay, thanks very much.